As you know, I read every day one story uh, before sleeping. So today's topic, my dad. Today's story topic is my dad. Um, my dad stories start with whenever anyone meets my dad, I imagine they first notice how handsome he is. The streaking blue eyes, jet black hair, and clef in his chin. But next, I will bet they notice his hands. He is a professional carpenter. He usually notice his carpenter. He usually has a bruised nail or nail too. Several fresh cuts, various healing wounds, and calluses everywhere. The girth of his fingers is 3 times the size of an average man finger. They are the hands of a man who start his working life at the early age of 3, milking cows. His attitude toward a work crew can appear gruff. He expects them to work hard and do whatever it takes to finish the job without excuses. 23 years old, my mom died, and this man was left all alone to raise a 14 years old girl and and 11 years old boy. He suddenly had to be dad and mom. I seemed easier at first. I was a rather fearless child and preferred playing with boys, doing my doing boy things like climbing trees, building forts, playing football, baseball, and with GI Joes. I did have a Barbie doll, but she often wore GI Joe fatigues and went to war with him. I even played on a all boys ice hockey team. I had a lot of fun and learned many things from these activities, but none of them prepare me for stepping into my womanhood, which had to happen sooner or later. I especially remember one day when I was about 15 years old. We were driving down to Georgia to visit my aunt, and for some reason, every single thing my dad and my brother said or did made me crazy. I went from weepy to laughing for no reason, but my overall desire was to be left alone. It was clear they were both perplexed by this Jekyll Heidi creature in their car. We had been taking our time driving and ended up spending the night at a motor lodge along the highway. Once we were in the room, Dad sent my brother out to the soda machine. When we were alone, he asked me what was wrong. There was nothing to do but admit that I had begun mistreating for the very first time in my life. Then I burst out crying uncontrollably. The miracle was that somehow, even though no book late include this piece of information, Dad knew to just Dad knew to just hold me and allow me to mourn the loss of my childhood. He then offered to go to the store for me and buy the items I required. He We both crossed some kind of bridge that day, me into womanhood and he more deeply into the role of being mother as well as father. I think some men fear their feminine side as if begin nurturing N- nurturing would take away from their manliness somehow. All my dad knew to do was to love me unconditionally, not surprisingly, that would just fine. When my senior prom rolled around, I found myself in the happy position of dating a boy from a neighboring town. We invited each other to our proms, which were on consecutive nights. Dad wanted to make certain I had the perfect dress. And I did. It was a sleeveless, long white eyelet gown with a scoop neck. It made me feel like a princess, and Dad's approval was obvious. I think he was proud of me for stepping out of my tomboy image and acting the young lady, even if one for a couple of nights. But what nights they were! Traditional tradition at our schools prom was to stay out all night with your friends. With our parents' permission, my date and I promed until 6:30 in the morning. I returned to my home to sleep for a few hours before driving to his parents' house. I will never forget my amazement that Saturday morning when I awoke and come downstairs to find my beautiful prom gown proudly displayed in protective plastic like new ready for another night's festivities. It seems that something during my sleep, my dad had come into my room and found my prom gown. He had hand washed it in a delicate laundry soap. Then I had pressed it. My dad may not have been a man of my many words when he was raising us, but he did not really have to be when I think of those beat up working man's calloused hands gently washing my delicate prom gown. My heart warms and relieves the moment of unconditional love all over again. It felt like the best of what we are supposed to learn from our mothers and our dads. This story is written by Barbara E. C. Goodrich, who writes this story. Actually, I have to say something. Uh, why I read this book and why I daily post story of something. I did not post anything anywhere to find to get story and then tell. Just I read a story of this book. This book have 101 stories to upon the hearts and rekindle the spirits of women. So I read this book. Mm, this book's name A Second Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul, and in this book have 101 more stories um to open the hearts. I mean, I don't think, and I will not expected to about hearts and rekindle, but this book I read and I post in YouTube regular, just for challenge 101 stories I daily share, and which help me to read a first book which I completed. So I read this book. I mean, my problem is that where I read some book just 1 to 2 page, 2 to 10, 10 to 20, just 20 paper. I leave this book. I mean, I leave that book which I read 20 paper, almost 10 paper. I did not complete any book, so I read this story book. Actually, story is interesting, and when I read, it's understandable, and it helps to complete a book which I finish all, which I read all all the book. I mean, all story of this book. Then I achieve a title of my first book which I complete. So I read this book. Thank you for listening this book. These types of story helps me to learn extra English and pronunciation, improve my pronunciation. So I trying to improve my pronunciation and English language. Thanks for watching this video, and I'm glad to listen this video with fully. Thank you. Okay, bye bye.